Today I want to talk about data because a lot of people love to question me about data. So what is the data I'm talking about is what is the data that Reviv has backing its claims and so on. I'm a tech person who uses a lot of data in his job for many years, so I understand data very well. And therefore, I find it's useful to first define what is good data. In this realm around health, to prove that something like Reviv or biomechanics works, right? Like what would constitute good data? You'd have to look at, most people will say, okay, research studies, peer-reviewed research studies. I've looked through a lot of this kind of research over the years, especially earlier, right? When I was in a lot of problems back in 2014, and I continued in 15, 16. I was preparing to write a book in 17, so I was reading a lot back then. So I've read hundreds of these research reports back then that was on PubMed and all these type of things. And what will you typically find in these reports? Like, usually they break people into a few different groups. You find some kind of technical conclusion at the end that one group fared a little bit better than others. And so you'll find some research out there that supports the fact that like adding vertical height helps. You'll find some things on mouth guards and Maya brace, but it's not like in your face, like, oh, this definitely works, right? It's more like, okay, this group performed a little bit better in this highly technical thing. And when I read this, it helped, but it didn't give me the answers that I was looking for. If you understand this space, this research's been around. Many dentists have access to it. I read a lot of it, but still, areas like TMJ are complete, shit show today. So many dentists are doing, they're contradicting each other and they have different approaches, and the patients, like most of them are just, either not progressing or getting worse. And you realize that, okay, we've got all this research, right? And there's a lot of occlusal research out there. But for some reason, despite having all this research, people are still going in circles and, their health is suffering from it. Who's got the data that we need to try to prove this, right? I would argue that nobody has, right? Like, do orthodontists have this data? Obviously not, right? We have so many people. We're getting worse and worse from braces and aligners and extractions and things. And so you've got thousands of orthodontists that have the green light to do this stuff because of research. And I'm just curious, like, what research showed that there was no long-term negative impact of this stuff? Because for me, it's very, very clear. Things like surgery, what kind of research has shown that jaw surgery actually works? Like everybody I know, once you go past a few years that has done jaw surgery, like everyone I've met that has done it was pretty sorry that they did it. Another area would be looksmaxxing, right? Like, so a lot of people online that have done things like mewing and thumb pulling, and it works for some people and it doesn't work for some other people. So, there's a little bit of data, but it's hard to collect. But like, is there some conclusive research that shows beyond a shadow of a doubt that thumb pulling or mewing works? No, right? And then there's thousands of people that say it doesn't work. Everywhere you look, there's either not a lot of data or it's very muddled data. So I think like what I'm trying to conclude, if this was a courtroom, is that nobody's got this holy grail of data. And so don't hold us to a bar that nobody else has held to, especially dentists and orthodontists, right? They're doing all this crappy stuff that is damaging so many thousands of people, and they're the ones that claim to have the most data. So I just find that ironic. What data do we have as Reviv? I would argue that, the data is in our community. So we have a school communities, almost up to 2,000 people, many posts every day, and many people are posting about their progress, and it's very transparent, right? And a lot of people have talked about how they're progressing and they're getting rid of this, very medical symptoms, their teeth are aligning, their arches are expanding, all this, right? And I have access to even more because people DM me and comment about how they're progressing. So people that are not on school, because we've sold to probably well over 15,000 people at this point, I get a lot of other additional data points, which is messages on social platforms and emails, and also there's journals. So, something like 1,500 people have paid Reviv to track their journal. There are also a lot of people progressing there in a documented way just on our school community, which is, probably only 25% of our data that we have. There's already many hundreds of cases of people progressing across all kinds of stuff. Show me who else has that, at least. I don't think orthodontists right? You start asking people, how is their health a number of years on, like you're going to get very few people that are going to say that their health improved after doing braces or Invisalign, even across the other things like surgery and stuff, like I think the data you would see is very depressing. Whereas the data that we have is a lot of people progressing. And so I would probably estimate that, if you were to interview like a couple of years on people that have done braces aligners, how are they feeling? How's their health? Probably 80% plus are probably feeling a bit worse or looking a bit worse. And I would say that you could flip that easily for Reviv, in that 80% of people, even like a couple months on, are talking about how they're improving. Like we're doing pretty good. Like I don't know anyone out there that has the kind of data that we do, right? Show me the open community about braces or whatever, where everybody's saying how great they're doing and how they're improving medical issues and how they're improving mental health issues. I don't see it. My attitude towards this is, okay, the data out there is, sparse, and sometimes the quality is not good. And in this, shitty environment, like our data, I think is some of the best because our data is straight from the source. People saying how their health is improving. And when people give us a lot of problems, I like to point out that, if you need all the data, right? Like if you need the data to absolutely say that this works and this doesn't work, right? Like you're going to be waiting a long time, right? And if you've got health issues and stuff, like you probably don't have the time to wait, because I think that eventually they will do all the studies to back this up, but it's going to take years. And in the meantime, it's pretty easy to test and it's non-invasive, cheap, and completely reversible. And therefore, wearing a mouth guard for me is almost like a no-brainer, especially when you see that, you can be part of a community and see how lots of hundreds of other people are also doing well with it. My last point is to the haters out there. It's like, you can talk about data all you want, but until you show me someone that has better data than us, I'm just going to ignore you.